Welcome to Heartfire Obsession. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Natalie Chen stood in the honeymoon suite bathroom, her wedding dress pooled around her feet like a fallen cloud, and stared at the phone in her trembling hands. The text message glowed in the darkness. Can't believe you actually married her. See you next week as usual. Love you always. The message had come through on her new husband's phone, which he'd left charging on the nightstand while he showered. Natalie had only picked it up because her own phone was dead, intending to use his to call room service. Instead, she'd found this, a message that shattered everything she thought she knew about the man she'd just married 3 hours ago. Her hands shook so badly, she nearly dropped the phone. Through the bathroom door, she could hear the shower running, could hear Derek humming their wedding song. The same song they danced to tonight, surrounded by 300 guests who'd watched them pledge forever to each other. The same Derek who'd looked into her eyes during their vows and promised faithfulness, honesty, love. All lies. The perfect man's perfect deception. Natalie's mind raced backward through their relationship, searching for signs she'd missed. Derek Wright had seemed perfect from their first date 2 years ago. Successful architect, charming, attentive, the kind of man who remembered her coffee order and sent flowers on random Tuesdays just because. He'd proposed on the beach where they'd had their first kiss, had cried actual tears when she said yes, had been involved in every detail of wedding planning. He'd been perfect. Too perfect, she realized now with sick clarity. She scrolled through his messages, her horror growing with each swipe. The conversation with A went back 18 months, longer than their engagement. Messages that were intimate, detailed, full of inside jokes and declarations of love. Plans to meet at hotels, at an apartment Natalie didn't know existed, during business trips that Derek had claimed were solo. There were photos, too. Derek with a blonde woman Natalie didn't recognize, their bodies intertwined in ways that made her stomach revolt. The woman's face was turned away from the camera in most shots, but in one, a selfie taken in what looked like a bedroom, she was clearly visible. And Natalie recognized her. Amanda Sterling. Derek's business partner. The woman who'd been at their wedding tonight, who'd given a toast about how happy she was to see Derek find love, who'd hugged Natalie and wished her every happiness, the woman who'd been sleeping with Derek for a 1.5 years. The confrontation that changed her the shower shut off. Natalie heard Derek moving around, humming, happy, oblivious. She looked at herself in the mirror, elaborate updo starting to fall, makeup smeared from happy tears she'd shed during the ceremony, white silk robe that was supposed to be part of tonight's seduction. She looked like a woman about to have the best night of her life. She felt like someone had hollowed her out with a spoon. Natalie walked out of the bathroom, Derek's phone in her hand. He emerged from the shower wrapped in a towel, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Hey, beautiful. I was thinking we could order that champagne," and he stopped, seeing her expression. "What's wrong? Who's A?" Natalie asked, her voice surprisingly steady. Derek's face went white. "What? A? The person who texted you 15 minutes ago saying they can't believe you actually married me and they'll see you next week as usual. That A." She held up his phone, showing him the message. "Who is she, Derek?" "Natalie. I can explain. Is it Amanda? Your business partner Amanda? The woman who gave a toast at our wedding 4 hours ago?" The confirmation was written all over his face. Guilt, panic, the desperate calculation of someone trying to figure out which lie might save him. "How long?" Natalie demanded. "It's not. We're not. It's complicated." "How?" "Long. 18 months, Derek admitted, the words barely audible. "But Natalie, you have to understand, it didn't mean anything. It was just physical. Just don't." Natalie's voice cracked. "Don't tell me it didn't mean anything when I can see the messages, when I can read her saying she loves you, when you've been planning to continue this affair into our marriage." Derek moved toward her, hands outstretched. "I love you, Natalie. I married you. That means something. Amanda is she's just something that happened. But you're my wife. You're the one I chose." "You chose me?" Natalie's laugh was bitter, broken. "You chose to marry me while sleeping with someone else. You chose to let me plan our wedding while planning your next hotel rendezvous with your mistress. You chose to stand in front of our families and friends and lie to everyone, including me. I'm sorry, Derek said. And he actually looked sorry, looked devastated. But Natalie knew him well enough now, or thought she did, to recognize his expressions. This wasn't remorse for betraying her. This was panic at being caught. Did you sleep with her this week? Natalie asked suddenly. Before the wedding? Derek's silence was answer enough. When? Natalie. When, Derek? 2 days ago, he whispered, at the apartment. It was supposed to be goodbye, one last time before I committed to you fully. Get out. Natalie's voice was ice, was steel, was the sound of something breaking that could never be repaired. Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. This is our wedding night. There is no wedding. There is no us. There's just you and your lies and 18 months of betrayal that I was too stupid and trusting to see. Natalie opened the door to the suite. Get out. The secret that made it worse. Derek grabbed his clothes and dressed quickly, his face cycling through emotions, panic, anger, desperation. We can work through this, he said as he pulled on his pants. Couples therapy, counseling, whatever you need. I'll end it with Amanda. I'll do anything. You'll do anything except tell me the truth, Natalie said. There's more, isn't there? This isn't just an affair. There's something else you're not telling me. She saw it in his eyes, the flash of fear, the confirmation that her instinct was right. What else, Derek? What else have you been lying about? Nothing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Natalie looked down at the phone still in her hand, scrolling through messages with new purpose, looking for what she'd missed, what Derek was so afraid of her finding. And then she saw it. A message from 3 months ago that made her blood run cold. Told my lawyer today about the offshore account. Once we're both free, we can access it together. Just a few more months. You've been planning to leave me, Natalie said slowly. This whole time, this whole wedding, you've been planning to divorce me and run off with Amanda. It's not like that, then what's the offshore account, Derek? What money are you hiding? His face told her everything she needed to know. You've been stealing, she realized. From the firm, from the projects. You've been embezzling money and hiding it offshore, planning to disappear with Amanda once you'd secured your inheritance from marrying me. Derek's family trust had been very clear. He would only receive his $10 million inheritance after he married and stayed married for at least 6 months. Natalie's stomach turned as she understood the full scope of his betrayal. He'd married her for money, all while planning to leave her the moment he could access his inheritance. You were going to divorce me in 6 months, she said. Take the inheritance, take the stolen money, and disappear with Amanda. I was just a means to an end. Natalie, please, get out, she said again. Before I call hotel security. Before I call the police. Before I call your father and tell him exactly why his son got married today. Derek left, finally, the door closing behind him with a quiet click that sounded like the end of the world. Natalie stood alone in the honeymoon suite, surrounded by rose petals and champagne and all the trappings of a romantic wedding night that would never happen. She looked down at Derek's phone, still unlocked, still full of evidence, and she made a decision. Derek thought he'd been clever, thought he'd planned everything perfectly. He thought she was just a naive woman who'd believe his lies, who'd serve her purpose and then be discarded when he was done with her. He had no idea who he'd just made an enemy of. The sister who knew too much. Natalie called her older sister, Victoria, at 11 p.m. on her wedding night. Victoria answered on the first ring, her voice sharp with concern. Nat, what's wrong? Why are you calling? Shouldn't you be? He's been cheating on me, Natalie said, her voice hollow. For 18 months. With Amanda. And they're embezzling money from his firm, hiding it offshore, planning to run away together after he collects his inheritance from marrying me. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then, quietly, Victoria said, I know. The words hit Natalie like a physical blow. What? I've known for 6 months, Victoria admitted. I saw them together at a hotel in Chicago when I was there for a conference. I followed them, took photos, hired a private investigator to dig deeper. But Nat, I didn't know how to tell you. You were so happy, so in love, and I kept hoping I was wrong, you knew. Natalie felt the betrayal compound, layering on top of itself. You knew, and you let me marry him anyway. I tried to tell you. Victoria's voice cracked. I tried to talk to you a dozen times, but you were so convinced he was perfect, and I was afraid you'd hate me for ruining your happiness. I thought maybe I could wait until after the wedding, gather more evidence, help you get out of it safely. You let me marry a man who's planning to divorce me for money. You watched me stand in front of our family and promise my life to someone who's stealing and cheating and using me. I'm sorry, Victoria whispered. I'm so sorry. I was trying to protect you. Then help me now, Natalie interrupted. Help me destroy him. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you need? Everything your investigator found. Every photo, every financial record, every piece of evidence. And I need you to help me figure out how to make Derek pay for what he's done. Nat, maybe we should think about this. Revenge isn't, he married me for money while planning to abandon me. He stole from his firm. He's been lying to everyone for 18 months. He doesn't get to walk away from this unscathed. Natalie's voice was steel. Are you going to help me or not? Victoria sighed. I'm booking a flight tonight. I'll be there in the morning. And Nat? I really am sorry. For everything. Natalie hung up and looked around the honeymoon suite one last time. Tomorrow, she'd check out. She'd face the questions from family and friends. She'd begin the process of annulling a marriage that had lasted less than a day. But tonight, standing in her wedding dress in a hotel room full of broken dreams, Natalie Chen stopped being the naive woman who'd believed in fairy tales. Tonight, she became someone else entirely. Someone who understood that sometimes the only way to heal was to make sure the person who hurt you paid the price. Derek wanted to play games? To manipulate and deceive and destroy for money? Fine, Natalie would play too. But she'd play to win, and when she was done, Derek would wish he'd never met her. The morning after the wedding that wasn't Natalie woke up on the couch in the honeymoon suite at 6 a.m., still wearing her wedding dress, her body stiff from sleeping in an uncomfortable position. For a moment, one blissful, ignorant moment, she forgot where she was and why. Then memory crashed over her like a wave, and she felt the pain all over again. Her phone had 47 missed calls, 32 text messages. Derek had called 20 times. Her mother had called 15. Friends, family members, wedding guests, everyone wanted to know where she was, if she was okay, what had happened. Natalie ignored all of them except one text from Victoria, landing in 20 minutes. Don't talk to anyone until we strategize. Especially not Derek's lawyers. Love you. Natalie pulled herself up, stripped off the wedding dress. It would go straight to the trash, she decided. She never wanted to see it again, and stepped into the shower. She let the hot water run over her, washing away makeup and tears and the last remnants of the woman who'd gotten married yesterday. When she emerged, she felt different, harder, focused. Victoria arrived with coffee and bagels and a briefcase full of documents. She took one look at Natalie's face and pulled her into a fierce hug. I'm sorry, Victoria said again. I should have told you sooner. You should have, Natalie agreed. But you're here now. So let's figure out how to make this right. The evidence that changed everything. Victoria spread documents across the hotel room desk, financial records, photos, detailed investigator reports that painted a damning picture of Derek's double life. He's been stealing from Wright & Associates for 2 years, Victoria explained. Small amounts at first, then larger as he got bolder. About $300,000 total, funneled through fake vendor accounts into an offshore bank in the Cayman Islands. Can we prove it? With these records? Yes. My investigator was very thorough. And the affair? Victoria pulled out a folder of photographs. Derek and Amanda at restaurants, hotels, entering an apartment building together. In one photo, clearly taken through a window, they were kissing. The apartment is rented under Amanda's name, Victoria said. Paid for with cash deposits that matched the amounts Derek stole from the firm. They've been living a whole separate life together. Natalie felt sick, but she pushed through it. What about the inheritance? Derek's trust specifies he gets $10 million upon marriage, but only if the marriage lasts at least 6 months. If you divorce before then, he gets nothing. And if I can prove the marriage was entered into fraudulently, based on deception? Victoria smiled grimly. Then he'd not only lose the inheritance, but he'd face legal consequences for trust fraud. His father put very specific language in that trust to prevent exactly this kind of manipulation. Natalie stared at the evidence, feeling something cold and determined settle in her chest. I want to destroy him, Victoria. Not just divorce him. Destroy him completely. Nat, I understand you're hurt. Hurt doesn't cover it. Natalie's voice was sharp. He didn't just cheat on me. He married me as part of an elaborate fraud scheme. He's a criminal, Victoria. He's been stealing from his own family's firm, lying to everyone, using me as a pawn in his game. He deserves to face consequences. Victoria studied her sister's face. You're sure about this? Because once we start down this path, there's no going back. I'm sure. Okay then. Victoria pulled out another folder. Here's what we know about Amanda. The mistress who had secrets of her own, Amanda Sterling, it turned out, was not just Derek's mistress and business partner. She was also married. Her husband is Richard Sterling, Victoria explained. Corporate lawyer, very high profile, very wealthy. They've been married for 8 years, no kids. By all appearances, happy. Does he know about the affair? No. Amanda's been very careful, but Nat, this gets interesting. Amanda and Derek aren't just lovers planning to run away together. They've been planning to destroy Richard, too. Victoria showed Natalie more documents, proof that Amanda had been slowly draining her husband's accounts, transferring money to offshore accounts in her name. She's been setting him up for financial ruin. Once she and Derek disappear with Derek's inheritance and the stolen money from Wright and Associates, Richard will be left with nothing, and potentially facing embezzlement charges himself, since some of the missing money came from joint accounts. Natalie felt her anger crystallize into something sharp and focused. So they're not just cheating, they're destroying multiple people's lives for their own gain. Exactly. Derek uses you for his inheritance, Amanda uses Richard for his money, and they both disappear to start fresh somewhere tropical. Not if we stop them first. The lawyer who became an ally Victoria had brought someone else with her, Patricia Mendez, a family law attorney with a reputation for taking down unfaithful spouses and protecting her clients' interests with ruthless efficiency. Patricia was in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked at the evidence Victoria had compiled and nodded slowly. This is substantial, Patricia said. But Natalie, I need to be clear with you about what we're doing here. If we pursue this aggressively, if we go after Derek criminally as well as in divorce court, it's going to get ugly. Public. Messy. Are you prepared for that? Yes, Natalie said without hesitation. Derek's family is wealthy and connected. They'll fight back. His father, in particular, won't want the family name dragged through the mud. His father should have raised a better son. Patricia smiled. I like you. Okay, here's what I propose. We file for annulment first. The marriage was entered into fraudulently. You have grounds. Then we report Derek's embezzlement to his father and to the authorities. Let the family decide if they want to handle it privately or if it needs to go further. What about Amanda? That's trickier. We can expose the affair, provide evidence to her husband, but without proof that she's stealing from him, we can't do much legally. What if we could get proof? Natalie asked. How? Natalie pulled out Derek's phone. He'd never asked for it back. Had probably been too panicked to remember she had it. I have 18 months of messages between them, including ones discussing their plans, the money they're hiding, how they're going to frame their respective spouses. Would that be enough? Patricia's eyes lit up. That could be enough. But Natalie, using his phone like this, sharing private messages, that could be legally problematic. He left it in our honeymoon suite. I found it while trying to call room service on my dead phone. I'm not hacking into anything. I'm looking at messages that came through on a device in my possession. Legally gray, Patricia admitted, but potentially usable, especially if we can get Derek to admit to things on record. How do we do that? We set a trap. The trap they set the plan was simple but risky. Natalie would agree to meet with Derek, ostensibly to discuss the marriage and whether they could work things out. She'd wear a wire, legal in their state as long as one party to the conversation consented to recording, and she'd get Derek to admit to the affair, the embezzlement, the fraudulent marriage. He's desperate right now, Patricia explained. Panicking. People in panic make mistakes, say things they shouldn't. If you can keep him talking, get him to explain himself, justify his actions, we'll have everything we need. Natalie felt fear flutter in her stomach, but she pushed it down. When? Tomorrow. That gives us time to prepare, to get you ready, to make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing. I'm comfortable, Natalie lied. But she knew she had to do this, had to face Derek one more time, get the truth on record, ensure he couldn't lie his way out of consequences. Victoria squeezed her hand. I'll be right outside the whole time. The moment you want out, you just say the word and I'm coming in. What about Amanda? Natalie asked. We'll handle her separately, Patricia said. Once we have Derek's confession, we'll approach Richard Sterling with the evidence. Give him the opportunity to protect himself and deal with his wife's betrayal. Sometimes the best revenge is simply making sure the truth comes to light and letting people face the natural consequences of their actions. The meeting that would determine everything, Derek agreed to meet Natalie at a coffee shop, neutral ground, public enough that he'd feel safe, private enough that they could talk. He looked haggard when he arrived, his usual polished appearance replaced by rumpled clothes and dark circles under his eyes. Natalie, he said, relief flooding his face. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. Sit down, Derek, Natalie said calmly. Under her blouse, the recording device felt like a brand against her skin, a constant reminder of what she was doing. Derek sat, reaching for her hands across the table. She pulled back. We need to talk, she said. Really talk. No more lies. Okay, yes, whatever you need. Start with Amanda. How long has it really been going on? Derek hesitated, then seemed to decide that honesty, or some version of it, was his best strategy. 2 years. It started when she joined the firm. We just connected. But Natalie, it was never supposed to be serious. It was just what? Just sex? Just fun? Just something to do while you were planning our future? I know how it sounds, do you? Do you understand how it feels to discover on your wedding night that your husband has been cheating on you for most of your relationship? That the wedding I spent a year planning was a lie from the beginning? It wasn't all a lie, Derek said desperately. My feelings for you are real. I do love you. I also have feelings for Amanda. And the money? Natalie asked, watching his face carefully. The offshore account? What about that? She saw fear flash across his expression. What offshore account? Don't lie to me anymore, Derek. I saw the messages. I know about the money you've been hiding, the money you and Amanda have been planning to run away with. Derek's face crumpled. How much do you know? Everything. The embezzlement from Wright and Associates, the fake vendor accounts, the apartment you've been keeping with Amanda, the plan to divorce me 6 months after our wedding once you secured your inheritance. All of it. Natalie, please, were you ever going to tell me the truth? She asked. Or were you just going to disappear one day, leaving me to deal with the fallout? It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Derek said, and he was crying now, actual tears streaming down his face. The money, yes, I took it. But I was going to pay it back. And the marriage, I thought I could do it. Thought I could be faithful to you and forget about Amanda. But I couldn't. I tried. Natalie, I really tried. You tried? Natalie's laugh was bitter. You slept with her 2 days before our wedding, Derek. That's not trying. I'm weak, he admitted. I'm a terrible person. I know that. But please, we can fix this. I'll end things with Amanda. I'll return the money. I'll do whatever it takes. Why did you marry me? Natalie interrupted. The real reason. Derek was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, the inheritance. I needed it to start over with Amanda. The money I took from the firm wasn't enough. We needed more to disappear, to start fresh somewhere they couldn't find us. Your money, the inheritance, it was the final piece. There it was. The admission, clear and damning, caught on the recording device under Natalie's blouse. "So you married me for $10 million, Natalie said, her voice hollow. "I'm sorry," Derek whispered. "I'm so sorry." "The revenge that began, I want you to know something," Natalie said, standing up. "I forgive you." Derek's head snapped up, hope flooding his face. "You do?" "I forgive you because holding on to anger would only hurt me." "But forgiveness doesn't mean there aren't consequences, Derek. It just means I'm not going to let your betrayal poison the rest of my life." "What does that mean?" Natalie pulled the recording device from under her blouse, showed it to him. Watched the color drain from his face as he understood what she'd done. "It means that conversation we just had is being given to my lawyer, to your father, and to the police. It means you're going to face consequences for embezzlement, for fraud, for every lie you've told and every person you've hurt." "Natalie." "No." "And Amanda? I've contacted her husband, sent him the messages from your phone, the photos from the apartment, the evidence of her draining his accounts. By now, Richard Sterling knows exactly what his wife has been doing." Derek lunged across the table, reaching for the recording device, but Natalie stepped back. Victoria appeared from a nearby table where she'd been pretending to work on her laptop and positioned herself between Natalie and Derek. "Touch my sister and I call the police," Victoria said coldly. Derek collapsed back into his chair, his face in his hands. "You've destroyed me." "No," Natalie corrected. "You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone knew about it." She walked away, Victoria beside her, leaving Derek sitting alone in the coffee shop with the ruins of his carefully constructed lies crumbling around him. Outside, in the bright afternoon sunshine, Natalie took her first deep breath in 24 hours. It wasn't over. There would be investigations, legal proceedings, the messy dissolution of a marriage that had lasted less than a day. But she'd taken the first step. She'd fought back. The investigation that destroyed him 3 days after the recorded conversation, Derek was arrested. The evidence Natalie provided, combined with the financial audit Derek's father immediately ordered at Wright & Associates, revealed the full scope of his theft. $340,000, stolen over 2 years, hidden in offshore accounts under fake business names. Derek's father, Edward Wright, called Natalie personally. His voice was tired, aged by his son's betrayal. "I owe you an apology," Edward said. "I raised him to be better than this. I taught him honor, integrity, honesty, and he became this anyway." "It's not your fault," Natalie said quietly. "Derek made his own choices. Nevertheless, the trust inheritance, you should know that I'm challenging his claim to it. The marriage was fraudulent, entered into for financial gain. He won't see a penny of that money. Thank you. No, thank you. For bringing this to light, for giving us a chance to stop him before he did more damage." Edward paused. "The firm is pressing charges. Derek will likely face 10 to 15 years in federal prison for embezzlement. I wanted you to hear that from me. 10 to 15 years. Natalie tried to feel something, satisfaction, vindication, anything, but mostly she just felt tired. Empty. "And Amanda?" she asked. "Being investigated as an accomplice. Her husband has filed for divorce and filed criminal charges for theft of marital assets. She's looking at prison time as well." After Edward hung up, Natalie sat in her sister's guest room. She'd been staying with Victoria since the wedding night, and processed what her actions had set in motion. 2 people were going to prison. 2 marriages were destroyed. Families were shattered. And she'd caused it. No, she corrected herself. She'd revealed it. Derek and Amanda had caused their own downfall. She'd just made sure they faced consequences. The husband who thanked her, Richard Sterling, requested a meeting 1 week after Derek's arrest. They met at the same coffee shop where Natalie had recorded her conversation with Derek, neutral ground that held significance for both of them now. Richard was handsome in a distinguished way, mid-40s, with gray at his temples and eyes that held deep pain. He looked like a man whose world had been systematically dismantled. "Thank you," he said without preamble, "for contacting me, for showing me the truth about my wife." "I'm sorry you had to learn about it this way," Natalie said. "Better late than never." Richard's laugh was bitter. 8 years of marriage. I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a life together. Turns out she was building an exit strategy. I know how that feels. I imagine you do. Richard pulled out a folder. "I wanted you to know, my lawyer found evidence that Amanda was planning to frame me for her embezzlement. She'd been transferring money out of our joint accounts, then creating false records that made it look like I was the one stealing. If she and Derek had succeeded in disappearing, I would have been left to face criminal charges for theft I didn't commit." Natalie felt cold. "She was going to destroy you completely." "Yes. But because you exposed them when you did, because you gathered evidence and went to the authorities, she didn't have time to finish setting me up. You saved me, Natalie. Quite literally saved my life. I was just trying to protect myself. You protected both of us." Richard slid an envelope across the table. "This is a check for $50,000. Half of what I recovered from Amanda's hidden accounts before the courts froze everything. I know it doesn't undo what happened to you, but I wanted you to have something for the pain you've endured." Natalie stared at the envelope. "I can't accept this. Please. It would mean a lot to me to know that something good came out of this disaster. Use it to start over, to build a new life. You deserve that much." After a long moment, Natalie took the envelope.
"Thank you. No, thank you. For your courage. For
Fighting back. For not letting them get away with it. The trial that exposed everything. Derek's trial was a media sensation. Successful architect from prominent family, arrested for embezzling from the family firm and committing marriage fraud. The press loved it, a scandal that combined wealth, betrayal, and a jilted bride who'd gathered evidence on her wedding night. Natalie had to testify, had to sit on the witness stand and recount finding the text messages, discovering the affair, learning about the financial crimes. Had to play the recording of Derek admitting to everything while the courtroom listened in silent shock. Derek's lawyer tried to paint Natalie as vindictive, as a woman scorned who was exaggerating or misrepresenting the truth. But the evidence was too strong, too extensive. Financial records, text messages, photographs, Derek's own recorded confession, it all painted a picture of calculated deception and deliberate fraud. Amanda testified too, having taken a plea deal, 5 years in exchange for her cooperation in prosecuting Derek. She sat in the witness box looking diminished, her blonde hair pulled back, her expensive clothes replaced by a plain gray suit. She didn't meet Natalie's eyes once. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Derek was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. He'd serve at least 10 before being eligible for parole. Natalie watched him being led away in handcuffs and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no sense of victory. Just emptiness, where her love for him used to be. The sister who had been right 6 months after the trial, Natalie and Victoria sat on Victoria's patio, drinking wine and watching the sunset. Natalie was living in a new apartment now, had started a new job at a non-profit where she could use her business degree to help people instead of enable criminals. She was rebuilding, slowly, carefully. "Do you regret it?" Victoria asked. "Going after Derek so aggressively? Destroying his life?" Natalie considered the question. "I regret trusting him in the first place. I regret not seeing the signs earlier. But destroying his life? No. He destroyed his own life with his choices. I just made sure he faced consequences for them." "You're stronger than you know," Victoria said softly. "I learned from the best." Natalie squeezed her sister's hand. "Thank you. For knowing. For gathering evidence. For being there when I needed you. Even when it meant admitting you'd kept secrets from me. I should have told you sooner. Maybe. But you told me when it mattered. That's what counts." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange and pink. Natalie's phone buzzed. A text from Richard Sterling. They'd stayed in touch, two people bound by shared trauma and the strange intimacy of having been betrayed by the same conspiracy. The text was simple: 1 year since everything fell apart. Want to grab coffee and commiserate? Natalie smiled and typed back, yes. Tomorrow? Was that Richard? Victoria asked, a knowing look in her eyes. It was. He's nice, successful, honest, unlike some people, and he's been through the same thing you have. Victoria, don't. I'm just saying, trauma bonding can be a powerful foundation for Victoria. Her sister laughed. Fine, but Nat? You deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who chooses you first, who's honest, who sees your worth. Don't close yourself off just because Derek was a disaster. I'm not closed off. I'm just cautious. Cautious is good. Cautious is smart. Victoria refilled their wine glasses. Just don't let cautious turn into isolated, okay? You survived this. You fought back. You protected yourself. You made sure the people who hurt you faced consequences. That took incredible strength. But now? Now it's time to focus on healing.